Well, you may have noticed that we live in a time of rigid partisanship and toxic social media feeds that can turn family dinners into angry episodes of crossfire. But our next guest may be able to help. Joining us now, Beth Silvers and Sarah Stewart Holland. They are the hosts of the Pantsuit Politics podcast and co-authors of the new book, I Think You're Wrong, But I'm Listening. Great to have you guys here with us. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So I just want to lay out a little bit. You guys are obviously friends. You do the great podcast together. Sarah, you come from the left politically. Is that fair to say?
That's definitely fair to say.
And Beth, you from the right?
Yes.
So we have you seated backwards, but we'll have to, our viewers will have to sort that out for themselves. So this is, you know, the last couple of years before every Thanksgiving, you know, websites put out guides, how to talk to your family. I always think, like, can you really not get together with your family without having a fight over politics? There might be a deeper issue there, Sarah. But why did you sit down to write the book? And what advice can you give to people?
Well, I would say that it's not a secret formula. We haven't tapped some sort of secret idea, but what we have is a practice. We've gotten bad at it because we stopped doing it. We stopped practicing conflict and hard conversations to know that we can do it, we can prioritize the relationship, and the sun will come up the next day. And then we can try again, and maybe we'll get a little better at it. That's what we really want to talk about in our book, is that you have to keep trying. We have to keep trying so that we get better at having those difficult conversations.
We've seen these polls, Beth, that say, you know, I wouldn't let my daughter marry a Republican. I wouldn't let my son marry a Democrat. These things, they just blow my mind that politics is so at the center of your life that your own relationships are subservient to your politics.
A lot of what we've realized in sitting down to talk with one another several times a week is that our politics are just a vehicle to work out our values. And what we really counsel in the book and on our show is to deeply explore your values so that you're not trying to work your values out on who I affiliate with politically. We want people to kind of strip away that team jersey of I'm a Republican or a Democrat and just get to what really matters to me and why does it matter to me? Why am I reacting so emotionally to the news every day?
Mika?
Well, isn't one of the reasons, and I guess either of you jump in, but I and Willie as well, I think one of the struggles that I have is it's not a conversation about left and right. No problems with Democrats or Republicans. I believe that a good conversation and the best thing for our country is a balance of power and opinions. But what about when you're talking to somebody and they don't believe that Donald Trump lies, or they say, oh, he's not lying, he's just saying what he thinks, he says what he gets it. Is that still a political conversation?
I think it's not a political conversation anymore, and this is criticism that I get as the Republican on our show. That is about values, and that is about our tendency to identify with a person instead of with a set of policies and values underneath those policies. And so for us, there are certain non-negotiables in every conversation. We are not going to indulge falsehoods. We are not going to indulge racism, homophobia, anything like that. But we have to kind of figure out what's animating people to get to that with them. You know, you don't start off with, I'm going to throw you away because you believe Donald Trump.
See, that's to the interesting, the title of your book, I Think You're Wrong. What I've learned, because obviously when you're on the show, a lot of people come at you, is, and Mika, to answer your point, I always start with people, hey, I get why you voted for him initially. We had a bad candidate, take a flyer. So you don't invalidate them. It's a post-purchase dissonance where people, you can't say to somebody, you're an idiot, because then they have to defend the lies. And I find when I disarm people that way, then they'll go, yeah, he's lying, and he's this and that. But you can't tell them you are dumb, you made a wrong purchase decision. You have to validate why they did it, and then you can bring them along. And I find that really helpful.
But before you get there, I think you also have to have the ability to say to people, you and I both know this is a falsehood. What in you makes you want to make it right? Because Donald Trump's not the issue. You're the issue as to why you want to validate something that I know you really know better than. Because I think that's really the problem, is if you really believe in something, you can talk to people you disagree with. And if you've got to push people away, it's really because you're insecure about what you really believe.
And it's going to harden the conversation. One of my favorite phrases I learned from Beth is, I'm sorry, I don't see the truth in that. Now, can you tell me more about why you feel that way?
Right.
You can say that's a non-negotiable, but still be curious and filled with grace for that person. The hardening is what's happened.
But you could rightly say, could you not, Beth, that I can't respect someone who supports a president who separates children from their families, or someone who called for a Muslim ban during the campaign to keep 1 billion people out of this country because of the God they worship. How do you respond to that if you say, I just can't respect you for supporting that man?
Well, I think we say, I can't respect your support, not I can't respect you. Because we're not going to have relationships with each other. Look, do we want to live in America together or not? That's the question that we circle around on our show all the time. Do we want to live in America together or not? And so I can respect a person. I cannot respect that support. But my respect for that person is the window that's going to get us to a deeper conversation about why they're supporting those
But
policies.
I think that as we get to that deeper conversation and that window, I think that we've got to also understand those are the currents that are now knocking and flowing into each other in this country. And a lot of it is our internal fear, our internal insecurities, and we've got to address that. The real reason why you're ignoring children being taken from their parents is you're really afraid of an invasion that's really not there. We've got to address the underlying problems if we're ever going to get to common ground.
We need to delineate. Are we talking on the steps of the Washington Memorial with somebody we've never met before, or am I talking to my father who voted for Trump?
Right.
That's two different things. We don't apply the same rules across the board, right? So when I talk to my father, I still respect him, and I still say, I'm curious about why you feel that way, even though I don't see the truth in that.
He's still your father.
He's still my father.
So there's the other element of this is social media, and we all know it because we're on it, and it is vicious, and people say things on social media they would never say in a million years to your face, and it's about making the other side not just wrong, but evil. How do you combat that element of it, Beth?
We talk a lot about making sure that the way we engage politically is representative of our values, not just that the ultimate policies are. And so on social media, when somebody comes at you really hard, I like to just remind them. I always start, hi, nice to hear from you.
I'm a
Thanks for
person.
sharing that with me. I'm a person. Please remember that I'm a person. And it really can bring the conversation back to a reasonable place. We may still vehemently disagree, but just remember, this isn't some parallel universe. This is still me and you're still you.
And also take a breath. We don't have to react immediately every single time.
Yep.
But the title is, I think you're wrong, but I'm listening. Maybe it's, I believe you're wrong. I mean, when we're talking about basic truths, are we allowed to have this conversation around basic truths, or must we throw them all away? Is the question I leave everybody with as we go into the weekend. Because that's what we're arguing here. I
think that we're not trying to come to an agreement. We can have an agreement about basic truths and still be curious about how that person got there. And still be respectful of their right at the table.
And it's a long game. It's not one conversation and we change where someone is. It's a long game. Democracy is a shared responsibility for the long run.
Yeah, amen.
It's the long game. It's the long game. The book is, I think you're wrong, but I'm listening. A Guide to Grace-Filled Political Conversations, out now. Beth Silvers, Sarah Stewart Holland, thank you both. Have a wonderful weekend. And Willie, as we close out the morning, you continue working. What do you have planned for Sunday today?
I'm handing multiple copies of this to every member of my family and every family.